Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Football On Draught Podcast with me, Andy Burgess, and my co-host, Keith Heckingbottom. Delighted to welcome David Morgan, Southport FC midfielder, on our first show this week, where he's spoken to us about his time in Northern Ireland, growing up as a young footballer and getting a move across to England with Nottingham Forest, playing with players such as Patrick Bamford in the Nottingham Forest youth system. He also talked to us about his moves through non-league, how he achieved them, things that happened, the amount of managers he got to sack, and his qualifications that he's gained in other areas, including media and as a teacher. Over the coming weeks, we'll be speaking to various people up and down the football pyramid about their roles in the game, including managers, coaches, players, supporters, volunteers and various other people. Join us every other week where we'll be live from the Grasshopper pub in Hillside, Southport, the winners of the Pub of the Year for Sefton and West Lancashire. So delighted to welcome as our first guest here on Football On Draught Podcast, David Morgan. Morgs, thanks for joining us.
No
nice
problem.
to see you.
Pleasure to be here.
Current Southport FC midfielder. We'll come on to that later. We'll start though looking back at your youth and your upbringing over in Northern Ireland. Talk us through it from the sort of start, where you started out playing football, the area, Northern Ireland, and how that sort of developed.
Played locally, sort of grassroots to start. Little team called Kildare Youth. I think I stayed there till I was about 10, and I would say I probably was there from sort of 5. We always had like a youth league in the local area, and it was that Wednesday night, and everyone went, and that's where it sort of started. Stayed there, and then it was one of them scenarios where it was becoming 8-0, 10-0, 12-0.
Losing.
No, winning. And I remember sort of my parents speaking to me and saying, "What do you think?" I said, "Well, what do you want to do? I want a bit of a challenge." So went a little bit further afield, travelled to, at that time they were setting up the academies, the bigger teams, so Glentoran's, Linfields, they were all setting up their academies and on the 10s, 11s, 12s, 13s, and they started getting teams. So I joined one of them. It was Glentoran, and I stayed there. I only stayed for a year because what they were doing then was bringing all the best players. Yeah. And it became one of them where it was the 2 teams at every age group.
Same as what you've just left pretty much, but obviously on a bit of a higher scale from the grassroots going to. Well, you've gone to the academy thinking it'd be a bit better, and then
just lots of players. So to get the most out of, again, my parents always said I want to go somewhere where I'm not a big fish, and want to play against the better teams and want to see sort of compete. And that's where I went to a team called Ards Youth, and then stayed there for 2 or 3 years. And obviously every year you have teams coming to you and saying, "Do you want to come to us?" And I stayed with Ards Youth.
So was that set up similar to the academies over here in terms of going to play on Sundays and training twice a week? And
Saturdays. We played Saturdays, but they have teams sort of more grassroots, I would say, than what it is the academies. Obviously it's changed now, but at that set time you might have had 3 teams at that age group or 4 teams at that age group. They all played in different leagues. We played in one of the main leagues, and there was a team called Lisburn Youth, and they won the league every year. They had all the best players, and for a while when I was at Glentoran, they couldn't get into the leagues because they were an academy. They couldn't get accepted in for a little period. But I went to Ards Youth, and that's where I sort of
kicked on.
Yeah, it was where I sort of realised I've actually got a chance here of doing well. But as you can imagine, when you're sort of one of the better players in that team, you've constantly got people on at your parents every game. Yeah. What's he doing? Is he going? Is he coming to us? We'll have him. We'll take him. And I used to get in the car after game, and Mum would be like, "Oh, he was there again." It actually become like one of them where I think my mum and dad got a little bit like frustrated.
Just let him play, just let him develop.
And my parents were so like that. It was just like, what do you want to do? You enjoy it there, so why would you want to go somewhere else? Yeah. Obviously, you can go if you want. We're not going to stand in your way, but it's up to you. So it was good, and I would say that's probably one of the main traits of me now is I come from a team we didn't win every week. We had the battle, we had to sort of work hard, and we knew what it was like to get beat at times, but then when we did win and we competed against the best team, and we did get results. It was even sweeter.
So building up to that, obviously point where I think was it the Milk Cup. Talk us about that. I think it was a big point, wasn't it, in your development, in your youth career that led on to sort of you coming across to England. But what was that? What was the build up to that, and how did you view the Milk Cup's massive, isn't it, in terms of it's known about in lots of big English clubs go across and stuff. Did you know that was an opportunity where you maybe get picked up? Or
I'll be honest though, the Milk Cup I'd already agreed to sign before the Milk Cup, like a pre-contract agreement that
Forest.
No one knew about. But I'd already had done before the Milk Cup.
So how did that come about? How did Forest?
Because we had Forest had a soccer school running over there, and I went into it and trained in it once or twice a week for maybe like 2 years. A coach called Michael Whitley, top coach, very good. I would say he had a big influence in terms of taking me from being a grassroots footballer to actually developing and understanding the game a little bit more. He went into so much detail at a young age with the game that it just made me, I just took it all and soaked it all up and took it all on. And then actually when I went into the older age groups, I started thinking that I can remember working on that. I know how to counteract that. I know what to do. So that's where Forest came about. But it wasn't that I was just sort of solely focused on Forest. I went to Chelsea.
And was they all sort of like a little development centre?
I came across here.
Yeah,
I went to Cobham with Chelsea. I went to Sunderland. I went to Newcastle, and I had countless other ones that said we want to take you over.
So was that from scouts watching over there, just inviting you across?
So when I was playing for our youth, it would be that I said to you previously, my mum and dad would come and say to me, Sunderland were there again. Newcastle were there again, like they want to take you. And it was just literally like they would speak to my mum and say, mid-term break, he's gone for a week, are you alright with that?
Wow.
And they were like, well, what do you want to do? And I did go to Sunderland, Chelsea, Newcastle and Forest, but I came to Forest the first time with the development centre. We came as a group, like 16 of us, and we stayed in like youth hostel, and that was probably what made it better for me, is the fact that I come with a group and we
rather than individually going to different environments.
So then when I come to Forest, we got looked after and got to know all the staff, because they took a little bit of interest in you because there was a group of you, whereas I went to the other places like Chelsea, no disrespect to Chelsea, obviously at that time they were just up and coming in terms of, that's 12, 15 years ago, so they were just setting out on their big journey, spending the money. So when I went to Chelsea, there must have been 100 kids.
Wow.
Like
very similar to what the first team now then.
So when I went there, and it was like, it was just a totally different level of sort of competition. No one I knew who went there ever came through or got offered anything. So that was difficult. But the Milk Cup then. So I went to Forest from the soccer development centre, and then the Milk Cup came after that, and it's more around. So while I was living back in Ireland, it's more like a county-based thing. So Lancashire, for example, my county was County Down, and it's all the best players from that area. So we go through the trials process, you play games, and then they pick the best 16, 20 players out of that, and that's how you go. And it was always something I did say, because I was at that age, that I wouldn't go to Forest until you've played that. Until I played the Milk Cup, because it was such a prestigious thing. But I'd already agreed to do it. There was a little bit of pressure at that point. It was, I think Forest knew that if I go there,
you were going to be on showcase for other teams, sort of thing.
Yeah. So they pushed a little bit, and I think at the time the chairman, Frank Clark, Nigel Doherty had just passed away, and Frank Clark had taken over the club. Frank Clark flew to my house.
Wow.
With my mum and dad, and it was, let's get this done.
Wow.
Was
that always a plan to come to England, or was it just something that happened quite quickly?
I never thought about it, to be honest with you. I wanted to be a footballer. I never thought I was going to get there, and that was from like a very young age, like 4 or 5. Because like I've got my kids now, and like Niall says to me, I want to be a footballer any time. Like my mum hears that, she's like, here we go again. You said that from like so young.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Milk Cup. I'd agreed to sign before the Milk Cup. I didn't have a great Milk Cup. Went in the first day. Went into like a block tackle. Someone's caught my knee. I ended up not missing the second day. Think I played the third day, and woke up on the Thursday. Couldn't play on the Friday, and then played couldn't play on the Thursday, and then played on the Friday. So I think I only played 3 of the games out of the 5. We did quite well. I think we finished third.
What teams are in it?
We ended up playing Chelsea in the 3rd and 4th place playoff. We think we finished third. We played a team from Mexico called Club Pachuca.
Yeah.
They put us out. They were very good. Sheffield United were in it. Sparta Prague were in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some big clubs, but that was always the big thing was the Milk Cup. I want to play there.
Brilliant.
I want to have a go at that.
I think even now, isn't it? I think even still to today now, it's still
yeah,
quite
but
a massive...
it's changed its name. I think it's now the Super Cup.
It's the Super Cup now. It's called. Yeah.
But even when I went to the Milk Cup, like there was, I'd agreed to sign, but I remember my dad coming to me after one of the games. He's like, "Tottenham have been in there here." Like, so when I didn't speak to him that week about it because like I got the knee injury and it was dead frustrating. I didn't, as a group, I remember it. As a group, they went to the local amusements, Barry's in Portrush, and I stayed in my hotel room with ice on my knee at 14, trying everything
just
to play the next day.
Yeah.
And when you think about that, you think, oh my God, what were you doing? But like that's how much I was willing to sacrifice to play. So I didn't make it. But then after the week, I spoke to him and he said, like, you didn't even play, and he said, I still got some ridiculous comments made at us. And we were like, what? He said, people were willing to pay, they wanted to know what your contract was, what you'd signed at Forest.
Well, you'd recently just signed as well.
I'd just signed.
Wow.
They wanted to know what it was because they'd better it. I got to the point where it was like, I'm one of them people, and we are as a family, dead loyal. And Forest had been good to me, they come to my house. Imagine I turned around to Forest and said, like, I'm not going.
Yeah. But it's, I mean, listen, a massive club, isn't it?
Yeah,
for yourself, it
at
must have been, Chelsea, Newcastle, Sunderland are big clubs as well. But it's not like you were joining a small club there. The opportunity to go and play in that type of environment wasn't going to be.
It's where we got sold, or where we, as a family, and for me, it was where I felt I've got the best chance, and I've got the right people to take me there. Like at Forest, I had unbelievable relationships with like the people who brought me in. And unfortunately, further down the line, when I got to 18 and 19, all of them had gone.
Right.
Yeah.
So by my final year there, it was all new staff, completely overhauled. So by the time I left, I didn't really know any of them.
So you've made the move, come across. Obviously, 14 years old? 13, 14?
Yeah.
That must have been massive for you. Did you live in digs?
Yeah, I went straight into digs, yeah.
Wow. Well, how did you find that comfortable, uncomfortable? Did you ever get homesick, ever feel like going home and chucking it in? Or was it always just part of the process? And as a 14-year-old, it must have been massive for you. Yeah,
it was something that, like, because I had my heart set on it from like a young age. It was one of them that any time where I questioned, what am I doing? Well, you're here for a reason. You've wanted this. So yeah, there was periods like injuries and things like that, like where you're not playing. It's dead frustrating. Like when I went there, I had a month with the knee that I didn't play in the Milk Cup with. Bone bruising, that's all it was, and I couldn't tense my quads because when I did that, my knee was too sore, like on the inside. And then I'd done my ankle when it was, I'd say 6 months before the Milk Cup. I'd rolled my ankle, like pretty bad, and got it scanned when I come to Forest, and I'd completely torn my ATFL and chipped a bit of the bone. So I had to go in for surgery, like as soon as I signed, straight away. So it took me.
So you've been playing on that as well?
Yeah, I've been playing on it. Yeah. Waking up on a Sunday morning, my ankle was just stiff, like, and sore every time. So luckily I got that also. I had no problems with that since, but it took me 6 months to actually bed in. But in terms of the digs, I went into digs with a family, and all the lads lived in the same digs.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah. So I was 14. I'm in there with the scholarship lads who are 16, 17, 18.
So there's literally a whole...
There's a whole team. It's the youth team that's living in this digs.
Wow.
But I'm a 14-year-old. I'm going in there and I don't know these lads. And I'm small. They're quite big. And like, you get into we all have dinner together. And you know when you're the young one, like, these lads want you to play up to them. They want to use you as a little, like, do you know what I mean? It's like, I was strong enough to turn around to him and say, "What? No, I'm not doing that. Well, you want me to go and ask her for that?" No chance. And I think that was one of the things that actually stood up for myself straight away. That all the lads in there, like, we had some unbelievable times. I was in there for 4 years.
Yeah.
So that by the time I left there, I was the oldest one with the young lads coming in.
Tables turned a little bit. Was there any big characters in there? Any players who have gone on to make a career out of the game?
Yeah, so in my age group, like, they didn't come in until after Jamal Lascelles went obviously on to captain Newcastle, and Patrick Bamford, and then another one, Ben Osborne, Sheffield United. He's now at Derby. So out of the group, out of our age group, we had good players.
Good players,
Story about Bamford. He stayed in school to do his A-levels because he was a clever lad. One Friday night he stayed in the digs and I wasn't involved in it, but somehow, and no one to this day has ever owned up to it, there was like shower gel put in his trainers, so when he was walking around the next morning to get on the coach to travel to the game, suds were coming out of his shoes. So he turned up and he's like, "Lads, what's happened here?" So the academy manager's seen it and no one owned up, and we all ended up like running on the Monday. And, like, it was one of them things that whoever did it
still didn't.
Still no one knew who did it, and we were all like, "Must have been you." No, it was you.
It might come to light, mate.
I don't think it has. I don't think it has. It never has. So yeah, it was good times. And then, because we had some English lads who travelled home on the weekends, all the abroad lads or Irish lads, so we had a couple of French lads. Yeah. We were all there on the weekends, so there might only have been 7 or 8 of us, so we would have went to the cinema, played FIFA, like, so it was good. It was good times.
Was your parents over quite regular as well, or?
Yeah, I think they had something like 6 times.
Through the club, through the year?
Through the club, to come over, so they used them, and then my grandparents as well. And then I was able to go home. They were really good with things like that. Like, you know, if you just went and said, "We've got the weekend off, can I go home?" They were brilliant, no problems whatsoever.
So you did your 2-year scholar,
and
then got what, 1 year, 2 year pro?
I signed the 2-year pro on my 17th birthday.
Right.
But that was something that was like already technically agreed, but they didn't have to honour it.
Yeah.
But I'd done quite well in the youth cup as a first year, so they did. Okay. So I signed a 1-year schoolboy, a 2-year scholar, and then a 2-year pro. Okay. Yeah, so that's why I initially had agreed. So,
so
it was a big contract, like in terms of like length.
Right.
14.
Yeah,
it's quite.
Most other lads only get like 2-year scholarships coming from Ireland.
Right.
Yeah, so it was a big thing, big commitment. Yeah.
So once you got sort of through your scholar and were a pro, were you close to the first team? Were you training with them? Was there a 23s development type squad? I know it probably wasn't perhaps more back then, but what did that look like in terms of you training at Forest and being at Forest?
As I was there, that 21s, 23s setup came in. So initially, when I was 16, I was probably closer to the first team than what I was by the time I left. Because we had a reserve team when I was 16, and that was brilliant because you were playing against men, with men, with men, and it was good, like really good. That probably like the biggest thing that I sort of took at that point was, you know, I'm playing here, but I'm still physically not there, where you need to be. Yeah. So that was that. Played in the youth team, and then the 21s setup came in. I think it might have been my first year pro. 21s, 23s came in. Right. But they wanted me to go out on loan at that point, which I did do. I wanted to go and play. I wanted to go out and play. My first one was to Lincoln. I was only there for maybe 2 months, and then 21's manager changed. John Pemberton came in and he wanted me back. So I went back for the January and I played 1 game in the 21s, and he pulled me after and he said, "We need you to go out." So that was when the first team manager had changed as well.
Yeah.
So when I first went out to Lincoln, I think it was Billy Davis, and then Alex McLeish had come in at a period. So when I went back, it was Alex McLeish, and that's why I ended up going to Scotland.
So were you playing at Lincoln?
Yeah, I played at Lincoln. Yeah.
And they pulled you back to not play you in the 23s?
I only played one game because the January period there was only one game on. So, but after that game, he said to me, "We need you to go back out again."
So in hindsight, you should have stayed at Lincoln.
I should have stayed at Lincoln really and seen the season out there and played in the National League as it was. But it's funny how you end up, because Alex McLeish had contacts in Scotland and Peter Grant was the assistant and he knew someone at Dundee. It was like, he's done well. Okay. He's good enough to come and play for you.
There, yeah.
So sent me all the way up there and they were like, that'll be good. 6 months up there and then come back. He only lasted 40 days. McLeish. So I'm up in Scotland and McLeish has gone and I'm thinking, he sent me up here.
What's going on here?
What's happened? Yeah. But I had loads of managers in the time I was there. Loads. So it was ever hard to get any continuity.
So just reverting back to Lincoln.
Yeah.
First, senior taste of football, senior pros, you say, grown, hairy-ass men.
Yeah.
How did you find that? Obviously, was it David Oldsworth, your manager?
Yeah.
Yeah. My old manager as well, at Mansfield, so thoughts are with you. But no, he was okay. David, he obviously had a good career himself and managed the way he did with varying degrees of success.
Yeah.
But in terms of how you found being a senior player, being a first team player, not senior player, but a first team player, what was that like?
It was good to go into the environment at sort of that age, but it was sort of quite far off what I thought it would have been in terms of like training, intensity. Obviously Forest at the time were a championship club, so you're coming from where you've got all the structure and everything so organised, and training's always intense to go and I get that they were preparing for games and things like that, but it was difficult to go in there and be able to hit the ground running, because after the first day it was like, is that all we're doing?
Yeah.
And then and like loads of lads will say it, sometimes when you go there it's difficult to keep your standards there when everyone else is kind of just accepting of like, this is what we do. So that was difficult. I played, was I ready for it? Possibly not.
So how old was you then when you've done that?
I think I was 17. Yeah.
So that's mad. Going to play men's football at 17 years of age is massive, isn't it, really? Yeah. And as you say, different environment. A lot of them lads will be dependent on maybe win bonuses, and it's totally different to probably what you've been used to, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it was. That was the big eye opener, being in the first team setting, of how much it mattered to some people, and then some people are just there just to play. They just float through, don't they? And obviously, it being my first one, it taught me lots and lots to be able to know how to handle myself in other first team dressing rooms.
Well, it was interesting. I think one of the first conversations we had at Starbucks, I think it was, a name popped up. Two people we know, obviously yourself, Adam, both in the squad at Lincoln. I grew up with them both at Rushden, and then Oxford with one of them. But Gary Mills and Rob Duffy. Obviously Millsy was in my youth team, and I came through with him, played at Rushden, and I obviously would see Millsy in a different light than you would see him as a sort of senior pro you looked up to. Yeah. I see him, Mills is an incredible character for me, in terms of he's somebody who, I spoke to him this morning, he sent me a message about his lad going out on loan somewhere, with somebody you cannot speak to for 6 months and then pick the phone up. Millsy is incredible, but I would assume that he would have been somebody who you looked up to, in similar position, similar type of player, or maybe you're a bit more offensive, but similar in terms of the middle of the pitch and things. Was he one who, his mentality and the way he played the game, something that rubbed off on you? Yeah,
so going from academy football to National League, you don't really realise it until you actually play in it. But Millsy taught me, don't be afraid to play the channel ball, don't be afraid to turn it. And that he was so good at it, Don't be afraid just to go and lay one on people. Don't be afraid to do all the horrible side of the game, because if you're not willing to do any of it, Millsy used to say this to me all the time, you can be as good as you want technically and on the ball, but if you're not willing to do any of the other side of the game, you're not going to be able to cut it at this level. But he was unbelievable. You know, someone who drove standards day in, day out, and there's only so much he could do. But from that point of view, like, he was the one who I always looked up to. Millsy, what we doing? Like, but on the flip side, he used to get in the car with me after, and he'd be like, oh, why, like him and Duff's together, for the two of them. Why did we do that today? Well, I don't understand that. Well, I wouldn't have done that. They put the world to rights, them two. But as a character and as a person, no, Millsy was top drawer. Probably him and Duff stood me in good stead. Couldn't ask for a better sort of introduction to men's football through them two. But he was one who I looked up to, definitely. He was captain of the club at the time.
Right.
He also taught me valuable lessons that you wouldn't get in terms of go and speak to the manager. Yeah. You know, he's left you out today. Go and speak to him. Go and tell him. Because he said to me, if you just accept it, he thinks, oh, that's all right. He's an easy one. So he taught me valuable things, and it's not that you're going in ranting and raving. You just remind the manager, you know, well, go on then, tell me why.
He must have calmed down then, because I wrote 4 transfer requests from Millsy, printed them, gave them to an envelope, and he drove down and gave them to Brian Talbot when he left out and stayed out when he wasn't in the team.
He probably did suggest that to me, but I was only on loan.
And obviously, as you mentioned, Rob Duffer, the other one. Duffer's unbelievable. I lost my licence through my epilepsy. He was my chauffeur. He used to go out of his way to help me, and I probably never said thank you properly. You know, he was just a great lad. But like you say, somebody who put you know, if you came in and said, "What did you have for dinner last night?" "Oh, I had cheese on toast." "What cheese did you have?" "Why are you having that cheese?" Well, why would you not have? You know, why would you not have this? It was just someone who was just a great lad and would again do anything. Old-fashioned centre forward. You know, he was going to retire, I think, before he came to Oxford with us, and had a great season under Jim Smith, and which was great to see, because he was a good player and someone who in around the dressing room was a character, a different type of character, but somebody who, again, probably, you know, at Lincoln drove standards and wanted it done the right way and got frustrated when that didn't happen. Yeah, no,
he was exactly the same as Millsy in terms of that. You know, I learnt loads from Duff's around, like, all the sides of it that you don't get any advice on, sorting out contracts. Well, why didn't you say that to him? Why don't you speak to him about that? You know, getting little bits that and negotiating and things like that. He taught me valuable lessons. Like, I spent loads of time with him. He had a couple of bad injuries. Spent many a time in a coffee shop with him, and he can talk and putting everything right. So them two, I would say, played a big part in sort of making me the way I am now.
No, great lads. So, leaving Forest, what was that like? Difficult? Needed to happen at a time where you needed to play? Obviously went to Ilkeston from Forest. How was that? Yeah,
leaving Forest, I knew I was going to leave Forest I went on loan to Tamworth in my final year. That sort of 12 months, I knew that I was sort of going to be leaving in the summer. Didn't really plan anything in terms of, I just wanted to play football at that point. I was getting to the point where it's like not quite got to where I wanted to get to in terms of the Forest first team. So, do you want to go somewhere and potentially play 10 games, but maybe just be a bit part? So I wanted to go and play. I didn't really care where it was. Contemplated moving back home. I was with my wife now at that time, so it was like she was at university, so it was like, if I move back home, is she going to come with me? Yeah. So, and I always had it in the back of my mind, you know, I'll be deemed as a failure if I go back home. You know, like, because everyone always said to me, "Oh, you're the one who's going to go," like, everyone around me, you're the one who's going to go and do it. So I wasn't too worried about it, but I just didn't want to have to go home and face that because I know lads have gone home and people are still saying to me about them, "Wow, he could have been, look what he could have been, he's just at home now," you know. Yeah. That small mentality where it's like, yeah, but you haven't got a clue what he's gone through in his football career. Like, he could be really broken from his experiences. So being back home actually might be the best thing for him.
That person, yeah.
So people are quick to judge on that, and I'm glad I did what I did. So left Forest. They sent a letter to my apartment at the time. They didn't hold any end of season conversations, and that's probably down to that.
So that's how you found out?
That's how I found out, yeah. The letter was pretty much around, thank you very much for your services, but they're no longer required.
And that was the end of... So you had to sign a 2-year pro, did you?
Yeah, so I was 19 then. I'd just turned 19. Well, I was coming 19, so I got that like on the end of June, and I was 19 in the July.
Wow.
Yeah, so I went out, spoke to a few people. I had a few offers. Like one was like down south somewhere. I think it was Torquay.
Right.
Chris Hargreaves. Yeah, Chris Hargreaves was the manager at the time. I was speaking to him about going down there. Didn't really interest me.
It's a life-changing thing, isn't it?
Didn't really interest me because it was one of them. Do you want to uproot everything, go down there, and then potentially beat them? Because I knew how football worked at that point. I'd been out into non-league twice with Lincoln and Tamworth, and then I'd been to Scotland. Like I went to Scotland, and the manager got sacked after 2 weeks, and the new manager came in and said, "You're not going to play." So I knew how it worked, and that was always in the back of my mind. It's like, if you go somewhere now and that happens to you, and you've uprooted everything.
Yeah, it's a big commitment, isn't it? To commit, and then the next thing, new gaffer comes in and
big commitment. So I didn't want that. At the time, Steve Chettle, who was involved with me at Forest, had just gone in at Ilkeston. So I rang him and said, "Can I come in and train?" And I knew what he was like as a coach. He wanted to have the ball. He wanted to do all pre-season with the ball. He wanted to play football. He wanted you to pass. And he said to me, "Yeah, come in, get fit, see what happens, play some games." So I just went in, and actually Duffs had signed at the time, so it made sense. It was like I travelled with him, spoke to him, said, "What's it like?" He said, "It's great. Like we've got 3 or 4 older lads who train 2 times a week, and then we've got a core group of young lads who train full time. Some of them young lads were on the college programme, and some were just coming out of academies, and they were just, well, I can come in full time." I was one of them ones. I want to still give it a go. I want to be full time, so I went in full time, and we had a great season. Like, just hit the ground running as soon as I went in. Didn't plan on signing, and then it got to the point where I was like, I really enjoy this. I think this is for me. Yeah. And after 3 or 4 weeks, I said to them, "What can you offer me?" And
so was that in pre-season you've got in, and did you got in pre-season, just obviously try and get yourself fit, played a few games, and then... And
I never really had any options in that pre-season to go anywhere. I never went and played for anyone else, and I knew they wouldn't be able to offer me what I was on at Forest. I knew that, but I had to realise that as well. It was like, just try and get what you need to survive. That's the mentality it was. You want to play football, you want to give it your best, try and get what you need to survive, and that's what I did. They got there in the end with it, so I ended up signing. Had a great season, loved it. We played football, probably one of the first teams at that time to play 5 box and 1 up top. Duffs was the one up top. Just played with some great players. Shay Adams played as one of the 2 10s. Keane Richards, both of them just running behind. We had a striker as well. Aaron Williams went to Peterborough. Callum Chettle went to Peterborough. Aki Williams, Akil Wright went to Stockport. I'm not sure where he's gone now, but he went to Stockport. So some good players came through it,
And then were you there season, 2 seasons?
I did 1 season there. And then both the management duo, Kevin Wilson and Steve Chettle. So Kevin Wilson was the manager at Ilkeston, Chetts was the assistant manager, and then both of them went to Nuneaton. Nuneaton had just got relegated from the National League into the North. So Ilkeston were Northern Premier League. So I was jumping up a league to go to Nuneaton, to a bigger club who had good ambitions to go straight back up. But I had my first Niall was due that summer, so he was due in June, and they wanted me to go, and I said, it's a lot of travelling for me. You're going to have to make it worthwhile doing, and we had a bit of a standoff, and I knew it was always going to come to it, and they were ringing me, and I was saying, "What do you want me to do?" You know, I've been offered something at Ilkeston. I had a clause that I had a extra year in my contract at Ilkeston, so an option,
on your terms, or
it had to be on the same terms, but at that time they wanted to change how they were doing it, and they wanted it all to go through the books.
Yeah.
Whereas some of it wasn't quite in the first year. So then whenever that was happening, it was like, well, I'm getting chopped here again.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not seeing as much of it as I need to see.
Yeah.
So we delayed over that a little bit. It become difficult. Gordon Strachan's son, Gavin, he took over the job at Ilkeston, and it was difficult. He knew from the moment he walked in that I wanted to go, and I didn't turn up for the first couple because I had a newborn.
Yeah.
And I wasn't trying to be an idiot, but I knew in the back of my mind, like, I'm probably going to go at some point.
Yeah, I'm not staying there anyway.
You just need to come to an agreement. And it took 3 or 4 weeks for that to happen. So didn't have the best of relationships with him because he probably thought he doesn't want to be here. He's a bit of an idiot. Ended up then signing for Nuneaton. They paid a few quids, and I went to Nuneaton towards the back end of the pre-season, and that was a good year. We did well.
And then, so finished the season there, and then Fylde happened, did it? Or?
Yeah, Fylde happened the next season. So Kev, we went into the second season with Kev and Chet, and then they both moved on. Results didn't really happen, and then Tommy Wright came in.
Yeah. Luton. Centre forward.
Yeah. Was that Leicester as well? Yeah. Tommy Wright was. I think he'd just done a good job at Corby. Came in. Tommy Wright came in and was brilliant. We got some unbelievable results under him. He wanted me to sign a new one, but I sort of, again, like I at this point I'd come from Ilkeston where I was at the bottom and I'd done well, and I'm a big believer that you should always be rewarded.
Yeah.
That, you know, if I've done well for a manager, it's like, don't try and just keep me on bottom dollar, like, because I've done well for you. Because if you don't reward, what'll end up happening is I'll get to loggerheads with you over it, and I'll go. And that's what happened with Tommy. It was nothing down to him. It was just that he said, I can't give you any more. Yeah. And I would have signed a new contract there, no questions asked.
Mad, isn't it, as you said, because where you've gone out on loan in your earlier days, it's probably where you've learned that resilience to have a bit of self-worth for yourself and be like, them conversations you have with older pros, and you're like, you know, go and knock on the manager's door and this is what I'm worth, and I feel like it's valued. It's
probably one of the only times that I've took a big risk in my career, because I'd a 1-year-old and was willing to go into that summer with no club, because that was in the February that I said we're not going to agree, and then he said, well, you're not going to play then? I said, I'm comfortable with that, and I'm not. I was never comfortable with that, but
it's a bit of a standoff.
Yeah, and that's where it comes to. And then that was the Friday. He said, I said, well, what are we going to do? He said, you're not going to play. And then Fylde made contact, and he said, can you play on the Saturday? You're going to go, can you play on the Saturday? And I said, yeah, what? Of course. Like, not a problem. I'm not going to say to you I'm not playing because I'm going there. So I played on the Saturday away at Boston, and then I went the following week.
Well, did you?
Yeah.
Fylde, who was the manager at Fylde at the time?
Dave Challoner.
Yeah. So where were they? National League North?
Yeah, they were just about to they were pushing to win it.
Right.
Yeah.
And how did you find that in terms of going? Was that back to full-time football? Was it full-time? It wasn't full-time Nuneaton, was it?
No, Nuneaton was full-time. Yeah, we were full-time.
Right,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So
So that's the main reason that sort of Kevin Wilson and Chet went to Nuneaton, because it was a good project. Okay. You know, it was full-time again, like Ilkeston. Yeah. They wanted to bring the young lads through like they had at Ilkeston. It was the same model.
Okay. So up to Fylde.
Yeah.
Dave Challoner.
Yeah.
Didn't last long.
No.
What happened there?
Bit of a sort of misdemeanour on my part. While I was playing for Ilkeston, while I was playing for Nuneaton, I probably didn't appreciate the level and had bet on football games, Champions League, 2014 World Cup. When I went to Fylde, I had one bet on a game of football. So how it panned out at Fylde, we could have won the league on the bank holiday weekend, Easter weekend, and we didn't. But there was a lot of money went on the game. The betting companies looked into it, fined 6 players at filed with betting accounts, and then everyone that had a betting account got charged, and FA had to go and see the FA. So filed basically gross misconduct of your contract, and was sacked essentially. Now, when I say sacked, Charlie, unbelievable for me, and Colin Woodthorpe, unbelievable for me. And to be fair, like, I've got nothing against Files as a club, nothing. But them two did everything. It was like, you've had one bet. I didn't bet. I had no interest in it now whatsoever, because it nearly killed my career. So them two, Charlie and Colin Woodthorpe, fought tooth and nail for me to stay.
Trying to stay, yeah.
Bizarre scenario. They told me to take it to an appeal against the club, and Colin Woodthorpe, who was the assistant manager, was sat on my panel.
On your side?
Yeah.
Against the club?
With the league and no representative from the club. That they didn't. The club didn't send one. So Colin Woodthorpe sat with me, and we're sent to the National League, and he said, we believe we want him back, and the club didn't send anyone. So he said to me when we played Chester, he's at Chester now, it's man, nearly lost my job over you. So from that point of view, yeah, I really enjoyed it. We won the league there. Obviously that never came about until the end of the season. So it was in the off season that flagged up. I did all pre-season with them. Was still around when they went into the National League, as the appeal process went into September. And Charlie, Chal and Colin were top draw for me. I got so much time for the both of them. Two of the best people I've worked under.
So left Fylde, went over to Harrogate.
Yeah, that was like an interim period. So when I left Fylde, it was
go and play.
Where am I going to go? Nearly went to Alfreton.
Yeah.
Was on the M6 on the way down. Didn't happen. Turned, came back home. Was just hanging around. Wanted to wait for the right thing. Didn't want to drop into. Could have went into the Northern Premier League again. Didn't really want to do it because, again, I valued myself and thought I'd done well enough. Went to Harrogate. They signed me for a month, non-contract. Played 3 or 4 games with them. Did really well. Really enjoyed it. They were flying at the time as well. Did really well. Loved playing under Simon and Thurles. And came to the end of that month. We played Southport. Right. I played for Harrogate. We beat Southport 4-1. And went to Simon on the Monday and said, like, I've been approached by Southport. What can you offer me?
Yeah.
He said, we really want to keep you. Going to go to the board today for you. Where do you want me to get to? I had a chat with him. Come back. He said, we've only got that in the budget and we need to sign a striker. And said, I really appreciate the opportunity. And he was devastated. Like, I remember him actually saying to me, he said, you're a Football League player. You're going to go into the Football League. Fact, 100% you're a Football League player. We'd love to keep you. But they had players in good numbers at the time. They had good players. Liam Agnew, the other midfielder who did really well, went and scored loads of goals for them. Falky was there at the time. They had good numbers. They didn't need me as such. So
went to Southport, signed for Liam.
No, it was
James Beattie, was it?
No, it was Kevin Davis.
Next one's Kevin Davis.
No, sorry, it was Alan Lure and Mark Wright.
Third time lucky.
Yeah, but Alan Lure and Mark Wright signed me on the Friday. Phil Hodgkinson was in charge, so it was Phil who I did the dealings with. Yeah, Alan Lure and Mark Wright, met them on the Friday. We went and played Nuneaton so I'd done a full circle at this point, gone back to Nuneaton, like thinking, oh my god, what's happening here? Went to play them on the Saturday, got beat 3-0. Alan Lure and Mark Wright are gone.
Wow.
So like in the space of like 18 months, 2 years, I'm starting to think it's something about me here. Yeah. I'm getting myself sacked. I'm getting managers sacked.
Need to get back to Northern Ireland.
What's going on here? I'm thinking. So Kevin Davis came in, started bringing in his own players as happens, and he told me shortly after he came in I was free to go, but I had signed a 2.5-year contract at Southport after this point. So I'm thinking, where am I going to go? Like, and I'm one of them that if you start jumping around,
get a bit of reputation for yourself, don't you?
Yeah.
It probably
so I thought, and I've always been one of these that, do you know what? You tell me I'm not going to play in your team, I'm going to play in your team.
Yeah.
I'm going to get in your team. So towards the end, I started playing a little bit more. We stayed up, no problems. Was sort of getting in his plans a bit more. And then out of the blue at the end of the season, Kevin Davis is gone. Because I'd been told that we'd already lined players up for the summer, that Kevin Davis had agreed deals with and was bringing them in, and lads had spoke to me saying, I'm coming in next season, what's it like? So when he went, I was thinking, that's what's going on. Like, again, could have been my fault. And then that summer, Liam got the job. Got a phone call while I'm in the gym getting ready for pre-season from Liam, basically to say, no, I'm not going to be. I wasn't for him. So again, I'm thinking, I'm at Southport. I've seen Alan Lure mark right off. Kevin Davis is now gone, and Liam's now sent to me.
Yeah, you're not for me.
You're not for me. But Kevin had already tried that, so I'm thinking my back's against the wall here, all the time. But as I've always had in my career, I've always sort of had that gives me a little bit of motivation and fire in my belly to turn around and say, do you know what? Like, you can think that, but I'm going to show you. Prove you wrong. So, to go into a little bit more detail, but the big problem with Liam was, and although we both have sort of different stories on it, he says the reason that he said I wasn't going to be for him was because I said I couldn't commit to the full-time training model that they were going to. So they were doing something like 3 days, Monday, Wednesday and Thursday or something. But I had agreed in the interim period with Kevin Davis that I was going to go and do my teaching.
Okay.
Which meant that I could only do 2 mornings. And the school that I was going to were more than happy with that. They were like, that's fine, your programme works.
So any longer you would get the headmaster sacked, wouldn't you?
Yeah. So Liam was adamant, you can't be any different than anyone else. That's what. But the phone conversation wasn't around that. It was, you don't really suit the way I want to play. I've seen you play.
But then the aftermath is something different.
So the 2 different things. So when we come back in for the pre-season, I was in a sticky situation and kind of said, like, what did I do? So the school wasn't starting until September. So I knew I had 2 months. June, July and August, I thought, let's just let this ride and see what happens, and kept in contact with the school and kept saying, putting them off. So the first couple of days I went in, like, trained as normal, no problems, everything was fine. Like, it wasn't like he wasn't speaking to me, he was fine with me. And then one Wednesday I needed the day off. I had something on with one of my kids, and that was fine. He said, yeah, no problems. So on the Thursday when I went back in, I spoke to the assistant and said, what running did you do yesterday? And he said, we did some hard running and everyone got in like a certain time. I said, I'm going to do it now. And I'll never forget it. At Stormy Corner, Skelmersdale, Liam stood in the like clubhouse door, and I was running around this pitch on my own. And I only did it for myself. It wasn't like, I didn't know he was going to be there. I only did it for myself. And as soon as I finished my last run, I just happened to pick my head up, he turned and walked off. And I thought, I've either pissed him off or gone the other way. So I left it, and the games were then starting to come up. And I didn't think I was going to be involved in any games because he told me you're probably not going to play. So we went to Fleetwood, and I didn't play the first half, and I came on the second half. And I played quite well. And I remember in the car park, Liam saying to me after, I'll speak to you in a bit. So I went training the next day, and he spoke to me, and it was fine. He said, where are you up to? And I explained it to him. And then we went in for a media day on the Saturday, and the most bizarre circumstances, I only had, in fact, I didn't sign a 2.5, I signed a 1.5 when I first came in, because I only had a year left in my contract. And I said, well, this is where I'm up to. I'm going to go and do the school stuff because I've got no security at the end of this year. So he said, well, what about if I give you another year? So I'm thinking...
So this is after you've had a conversation and he said...
Yeah,
you're not
this is after this. This is like halfway through the pre-season now. I'm thinking, I'm on the pitch, like Saturday, like doing this media day. And he said, if you want to sign it, you got to sign it today, though. So I'm on the pitch thinking, I don't know what to do. What do I do? So I rang my girlfriend at the time. I spoke to my dad. He said, well, you've always wanted to play football. Like, you did the teaching after.
Yeah.
Come on, like, see, you've obviously turned the corner with him. Mm. So I signed it that day, and I never looked back. Within 6 weeks, I was captain of the football club.
Fantastic.
Like, unbelievable.
It just shows, doesn't it? I think that you do the right things for the right reasons, you get the rewards at the end of the day, don't you? Yeah.
So, like, it's one of them. I could have jacked it in at certain points and thought, everyone's against me, but I didn't. It was like, I'm going to show you.
Yeah. Mentality, mate. Yeah. And again, unconsciously, it's probably from your early grounding, being around them old pros and like, listen, no, you determined your own future sort of thing and know your worth, and it's good, valuable lessons for people.
It's the one thing that, and I know that the academy thing's on there, and we might talk about it a little bit later, but it's the one thing I keep saying to all our academy lads. I wasn't the best player. Technically, I wasn't the best player, but what I did have was heart desire and like a willingness to want to go and prove people wrong, to go and do well.
That's the difference. So many players with technical ability, better players than you and I. Yeah. I was the same throughout at my scholarship. I didn't play for 18 months, but I did, my jobs were always done, my kit was always right, I always trained properly, etc., and that got me a 1 year pro. And got my foot on the ladder and I kicked on from there. It's exactly right. So from Southport, first time, the move to Aki, talk us through that. How did that happen, come about?
It was actually around the COVID time. To be honest with you, Aki had sort of shown me a little bit of interest a couple of times, like through different people had said to me, I knew lads who were there. Like Dion went, for example, and Dion used to say to me, he's asked about you again. Like, I got to the point where like Dion he might have said that to me for 6 months. I was like, Dion, it's not going to happen. Listen, if he wants to do it, he'd have done it. Like, I'm not going to cost a fortune. And then the COVID thing came about, and to be honest with you, it was probably one of them where the timing of everything was perfect, and it was an easy one for them to do, and it was an easy one for Southport to say, we're going to be without him. We're going into COVID for however long, so let's just sort of
do it now.
Let's do it and get a few quid. So probably that's how it came about. But I went straight in. And obviously Aki's one of them clubs where they don't have hordes and hordes of players, so you go in and you're around it. So I went straight in, and I think I made 16 appearances from the January when I signed to the back end of the season. So I did okay when I first went in. Some of them were coming on at half time, coming on for half an hour, but it was certainly like a big step up in that first year.
Into League One, wasn't it?
Into League One, yeah.
And then the injury, when did that? Pre-season, was it?
No, the injury came in my second.
Because you signed a new deal, didn't you? Then?
Yeah, so I signed the half season, played 16 games, and then I had a very good pre-season, and it didn't start the first game of technically it was my second season there. Didn't start the first game, we got beat away at Wickham, and then I came in for the Carabao Cup game, and I stayed in for 12, 15 games right through until I think it was probably November. Did really well, and then I did my ankle in training, like freakish incident. I've gone to poke the ball, defender's gone to clear it, I've sort of left my ankle dangling there, he's cleared the ball, my ankle just turned, and it was a 12-week job. So that was from November to January, and then when I came back in the January, I was sort of bit part, didn't quite feel right, and then it was March time that I felt my hamstring. Right. So I had a really, really good start, and in that good start, that's when I signed the new deal. And obviously, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but that looks terrible on me because they turned around and they said to me, you signed the deal and then you get injured. So again, that was something that was labelled of me, They see me as a bit, you've
thrown one in a little bit, yeah.
Which wasn't the case. And then the hamstring injury took a long period of time to diagnose of what it actually was. So from March time, it took a full year to recover because I didn't have the surgery until November. So March right through till March, even April, I was only getting fit in April. Wow. And then season finished, and then I could only come back in the pre-season. Yeah, you're not going to come back the same player in 6 to 8 months. No. And they'd just been relegated. They couldn't afford to carry me, and then money becomes an issue, and then again your character is questioned, which was the biggest problem to me. Was I didn't care about people get injured and things happen,
but when they question you,
questioned like my
integrity a little bit, isn't it?
That's the bit that I didn't quite like.
You should have turned around and said, "Listen, get your sack, Coley."
yeah.
Think how Kevin Davies feels.
Yeah. Well, he probably blames me for that though. He might. I don't know. That's funny. I seen him at a game. He was at the Oldham game pre-season.
Spoke to him for a while.
Spoke to him for about 40 minutes, and like his circumstances, how he played, I got a little bit of sympathy with him. So it's a horrible game in terms of things like that. But
so coming back to Southport, was that a no-brainer for you? Yeah,
again, not really a lot else on the table because I hadn't played football. It was somewhere I wanted to go to. I want to play. I know what I'm coming back to. I know the people. I know the club. I want to go back to that environment where I played my best football.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest sort of influence on it. Yeah.
Obviously, we're now a season on from that. Last year was a bit. Obviously, difficult start. Obviously, with Liam going.
Yeah.
But you played a lot of games, got a year under your belt.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately had an injury going into this pre-season, so it's been a bit stop-start. But you got back on the pitch at Chorley away last week, which was great to see. And I think you'll be 100%. You'll be an important player for us this season as long as you don't get Jim the sack at any point. No, I'm joking. No, I'm sure you'll be a hugely important player for us on and off the pitch, because I think that's a huge thing, as you know, with Jim, the environment and culture.
Yeah.
You're part of the leadership team. 5 players, senior players, which have already made an impact, and that's been fantastic. So. In terms of here and now, are you football happy? Obviously, I know you want to be back playing, and obviously, but in terms of you're settled. I know you got another year on your this year on your contract.
Yeah.
But you're in an okay place, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to have played better than what I did last year, but I have to accept coming back off any 18-month injuries as such, or a long period of time, to go and play the amount of games that I did play was good. I just wanted to play. Did I do too much at times? Probably. So from that point of view, I got a little bit frustrated towards the end. Yeah, I was tired, but I just wanted to play. Yeah, I'm getting older as well, which I've got to understand. When I got injured, I was 27, like 28. Now I'm 30. It's like, but people say when you hit 30, your body changes.
Yeah.
So I probably didn't adapt to that either. That I'm 2-3 years on. Still thought I was a young spring chicken, which I'm not.
Tell us about it. Don't have to tell us.
So I'm happy. Obviously, I want to play. I'll never lose that desire to want to play, and I'll never become that player who says I'm alright, sort of playing bit part, because I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not.
John, just going back a little to touch there, you were saying that you probably played more games than you should have last season, or tried, but do you reckon that momentum because your character had been questioned at Aki?
But more just that, like, if I would never turn around to someone and say, I'm not going to train tonight because I'm a little bit tired.
Yeah.
I've never done that. Whereas, like, that probably was something that I probably should have done last year.
Yeah. But then there's your character, and then probably from in the back of your mind that because you're being questioned, your character's a little bit like, do you know what?
Yeah.
I'll crack on here.
Yeah, it's probably. I agree with that. So, I'm in a good place. I enjoy the football club. I think it's going in the right direction.
And obviously, you've taken the academy manager's role.
Yeah.
How have you found that? Big. You've I'm not saying it because you're here, but you've made big strides with it. Lots of changes that have happened since you've took over. How do you find that? And is that something you're looking to in the future to do that sort of role, or is it just something that's happened now and it's good timing and good fit for everyone?
obviously it's come up now, so it's perfect. It works out for me in an ideal scenario. It's something that eventually I would have liked to been involved with, but further down the line, and people might turn around and say you're mad or whatever. I want to manage. I want to manage, whether that's at this level, whether it's below, whether it's higher. And I'm saying it now, but in 2 years' time I might change my mind because things change quickly within the game of football. But right now that's something that I have aspirations to go and do. I quite enjoy that side of it, you know. That's the biggest thing within the academy I've enjoyed, you know, organisation of people and players and trying to get the most out of lads. Do I think I could do it at a first team level? I want more experience at it, but I do think it's something that I want to do. But I've really enjoyed the academy stuff. I really enjoyed it. Think we've got something that we can really progress.
Just sort of finishing off, you've obviously got a couple of qualifications, one in broadcasting and media. That led you into teaching. Is that something you know, as you say, football's a, you know, especially your track record of getting people sacked, it's a difficult environment, difficult what's the word I'm looking for, industry. You don't know what's around the corner, so is that just something there that's in the background, and hopefully it'll be a continuation in football? But you know, you obviously did the media to lead into the teaching.
The reason, and I had it all planned out from like a very young age. I give myself till 24, 25 within full-time football, so that's why I went to Ilkeston, that's why I went to Nuneaton, that's why I went to Fylde, because they were full-time. That's why I wanted to go to Harrogate, because they were full-time at the time. So actually coming to Southport, where they were 2 nights, that's at that point where I was a year behind, really, because of what happened at Fylde, because I had to leave a year's contract. It was at that point that I turned around and said, it's now that I need to have, because part-time football was to me a step down from full-time football. Not so much now that I've been in it, it's not, I think there's sort of an element of part-time football that works for me better now than what full-time football might. But it was at that point that in my back of my head, I need something to fall back on. It was, what do you enjoy? Where can you link that into football? And the reason that I thought that teaching was a good opportunity, at the time, sort of, that's maybe 5-6 years ago, the education colleges were starting up.
Right.
So could I be a coach? And could I offer the opportunity to be a tutor, a teacher of the BTEC on that as well? So I wanted something more than your average person in that environment, and that's the reason that got me into it. Now I've gone into schools, and there's loads of different avenues now. Would I like to be a full-time teacher? I would, if I needed to be. But again, I'd want to get to the head of PE very quickly. I want to, because that's what I see myself doing, is being a leader. Right. And if I go into that and I get to the head of PE, I'd probably be thinking, I want to be the head of the school. Because I'm a bit like that. Like, I always want to.
That's your character, mate, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think obviously.
So, and I do I think, is that me, head of a head teacher of a school? I don't know. We not really know. Probably. No, you don't know. Probably is.
Can't get anyone to soft, mate, can you?
So that's how that came about. But yeah, that's why I went down that route.
Just to finish off, a couple of quick fire ones. And best manager you've ever played for?
Really difficult question, because all managers have got different traits, and
quick fire, remember?
I'm going to have to go with an international one, and I'm going to have to go with Stephen Robinson, who's at St Mirren. And the reason that I'm going to go with him is purely down to the fact that he was so relatable, but so demanding and relentless. Even off the pitch, like he's what I want myself to be as a manager. Like, we go on the international camps. I know it's a quick fire question, but we go on the international camps for 10 days, and he's buzzing around the hotel, organising like set plays, or all the set plays, presentations, speaking to players individually, watching. Just a smaller version of you. Watching the opposition, no time for it to even drink. And like, walk past you in the corridor, I've just got to go and do this, I'll speak to you in a minute.
Just constant.
And that's like what so he leaves no stone unturned. And on the pitch, he was phenomenal as well.
Yeah. Well, I've got a funny Stephen Robinson story.
Have you?
Played Luton at home.
Yeah, you that Luton.
So game finishes at Rushton Luton.
Yeah.
I've gone, Robbo, can I have your shirt? He went, what? I went, Robbo, can I have your shirt? He went, it's the only shirt I've got. I said, can I have it? He went, give me a minute. So going off the pitch, we sat in we got a room at Rushton where we had a post-match meal.
Yeah.
So he's come in. I've seen him come in, and Barry Hunter was with us, played for us, and he's Irish mate, Northern Irish mate. So he's seen Barry come over and gone about us, and then he's gone, Burge, pulled his shirt out from him. Don't tell anybody I'll give you that shirt. So I've got Stephen Robinson's Luton shirt at home. That's the only. I don't know what he did for the rest of the season. Like, didn't wear a shirt, but yeah, he was a good player.
Yeah,
real good player.
Really good manager.
Best player played with.
I'd have to go with Patrick Bamford, just because he could sort of score from nothing. Like Van Persie, like left-footed, long, gangly.
I think he's underrated, isn't he?
Rangy. He was very good.
Good lad.
Yeah, great lad. Yeah, great lad.
Apart from when he's got soap in his.
In his new trainers. Yeah. A great lad. Aki played Leeds in the FA Cup like 2 years ago, and spoke to him on the pitch, and he gave his shirt away. And my lad had asked him for it, and he ended up saying to me, I'm sorry, I'll post one out to you, and sure as it was, sent it out in the post. Yeah, so like real quality lads. Yeah, but always knew that from like growing up. His family were lovely.
Like it comes across as a real top. Yeah. I didn't know he started at Forest.
Yeah. So he was at prestigious school in Nottingham, stayed to do his A-levels.
He's very well educated, isn't he?
Very well educated, yeah, very good. Yeah.
Brilliant. All right, well, absolute pleasure having you on. Learned a lot I didn't know, even though I thought I knew everything about David Morgan. No, learned a lot, and it's been a pleasure to have you. And hopefully we'll have you on again in a couple of years' time when you got more when you get more managers' jobs. When we'll see where you are. Yeah. Thanks, mate.
All right, thank you. Cheers, mate.
Thank you, mate.
Okay, so here we are with our first ever pub quiz. It's the David Morgan pub quiz. All questions some way, in some sort of tedious way, relate to David Morgan, his career, his life. He's got 90 seconds to answer 20 questions, or however many questions we can fit in 90 seconds. Hecky's going to keep the score. Hecky's going to keep the time. David, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, if you don't know an answer, say pass, and if we get time at the end, we'll come back to the question and ask you again. Okay. Make a note if he says pass, Heck. Okay. When you're ready, Heck, you start us off.
Go.
What day of the week was David Morgan born?
Monday.
Correct. What is the nickname of Tamworth FC?
The Lambs.
Correct. Which former Liverpool striker told the young boy if he didn't drink milk, he'd only be good enough to play for Accrington Stanley?
Ian Rush.
Correct. On David Morgan's only appearance for Dundee against Celtic, what was the final score?
5-0.
Correct. Who is the most capped Northern Ireland international footballer, male, of all time?
George Best.
Incorrect. In which year did David Morgan graduate from Staffordshire University with a first-class bachelor's degree?
2014.
Incorrect.
2016.
Which Burnley midfielder signed on loan for Accrington Stanley on the same day as David Morgan in 2021?
Adam Phillips.
Correct. Against which club did David Morgan make his Lincoln City debut?
Hyde.
Correct. What squad number did David Morgan take up upon signing for Accrington Stanley in the 2021 season?
37.
Correct. In total, how many Northern Ireland youth caps has David Morgan won? According to Wikipedia, I must add.
23.
Incorrect. How many goals did David Morgan score in his 2 spells at Southport FC to date?
Including cups or not?
Yes.
26.
Incorrect. David Morgan scored his first senior goal for Tamworth against which other Midlands club?
Kidderminster.
Time.
Correct. Given that, he got in time.
Give you that. Good one. Tell you what, you've done well there, by the way.
Was it 2016?
2016.
Do you know what? I've done my head in because when I put it on, it's 2014 to 2016, and one of the things was in my head.
So, Keith, how many have we got right?
8.
8. Correct. That puts you at the top and the bottom of the leaderboard.
How many did we get?
12.
12
good
questions.
going,
Not bad. So the ones you got wrong, you got 1, 2, 3.
So we got
Ones you got wrong were Stephen Davis, the most capped Northern Ireland player.
That one really.
2016.
Yeah, I knew that
You
one.
got that in your
Right. 22 goals you scored for Southport.
Right.
13 it says international
13
international caps.
Yeah.
But apart from that, you've done very well. So you go to the top of our leaderboard, and
Appreciate that.
have to keep an eye on it to see where you stay there.
Answers, questions could have come a little bit quicker, do you think?